Hi, this is Emily Aslanian with TV Insider, and I'm here with the cast and crew of BBC America's The Watch. We're really excited for this one. Now, The Watch is obviously based on Terry Pratchett's fantasy series, the Discworld novels, but I'm getting some major cyberpunk, punk rock vibes, tones, influences coming out of this. Simon, I was curious what else inspired you while you were recreating this world?
Well, it's meant to be a kind of almost like a junkyard aesthetic, because I think we'd obviously the show is set in a kind of version of Pratchett's multiverse, so it takes a lot of latitude and a lot of license with certain things. And it felt like there were a lot of Victorian steampunk shows out there already. There's a particularly big one on a streamer, which I won't name. And so we had to kind of differentiate what we were doing. And it felt like the city of Ankh-Morpork, as it is in the books, is a quite contrary place. It's an upside down place. It's off its axis. Everything's kind of off kilter. So we wanted to have this blend of old and new, of sort of antiquity and modernity. But the modernity that you see in the show is powered by magic. So it's full of sort of malfunctioning kind of spells and creatures and things like that. So it was, it was the chance to kind of do something that feels kind of familiar and different at the same time. And the phrase that we used for everything was fantasy with fingerprints. We wanted it to feel physical and real and completely immersive.
For all of my cast members here that are with us today, thank you all so much. You're all colleagues, essentially, under the City Watch, in a city where crime is basically legal. Everything's kind of split up into factions. We have different guilds, the Assassins Guild, the Alchemists Guild, things like that. Why don't you each start by telling me just a little bit about your characters and how they feel about the way crime is handled in this city?
Yeah, so basically you meet my character called Carrot, Iron Founder's son, and he arrives in the city, and you basically, as an audience member, you see the world through his eyes in this modern city that we have. And he is a character who expects to find a law-abiding place where he can come in and fight crime and do justice and serve it all out, as he's just transferred in from another watch, which is in the mountains with the dwarves. But when he arrives, he finds that crime, as you say, is legal to an extent, with receipts and quotas and all the guilds, and he finds it completely baffling, and it's not all what he thought it was going to be. So he basically arrives in the story and injects in a bit of gusto to set in motion events to start finding loopholes, I guess, in the system, and trying to do what their job really is and fight crime, because at the moment they're pretty powerless and sort of sitting around not being able to do that much. So it sort of sets in motion a lot of things. I mean, never mind, dragons and all that stuff as well. But yeah.
Absolutely. And then we have Captain Sam Vines. He's kind of used to the crime at this point. He's been around.
He's been around the block, old Sam Vines. He's a kind of a dissolute character. We find him broken and haunted by a choice that he made 20 years ago. But in that time, he has banded together this amazing broken bunch of unlikely heroes who become heroes, but they don't even know that they have it in them. And he's brought these people together, and they're a magical bunch, and only together do they find their true strength. And they become united and find hope and love.
So I play Angua van Upperwald, who's part of the City Watch, and I don't want to give too much away about her past, let's say, because I think it will be quite interesting for the viewers to, see that as they watch the show. But she's a shapeshifter, which is something that's out there already. And she's just a strong and feral sort of person. But as the story unfolds, we see how very much human she is, and how deep down she's drowning in this fear of what she could potentially do to those that she loves. And I guess it was a journey towards finding self-love for Angua throughout this show, but also for all the characters. It seems like there's a this sort of thing going through, where we're all trying to find who we are, but also love who we are and come together.
Well, Chiri got a love for what she does in the mines where she grew up, because Chiri is a dwarf, in a similar way to Carrot, although Carrot is dwarf, not dwarf, human dwarf, and Chiri is full dwarf. But Chiri comes from a mine which is quite different to Carrot's in that it's quite an oppressive place. And what happens is Chiri escapes that mine, and she makes her way to Ankh-Morpork and gets a apprenticeship at the Alchemists Guild, which further develops that curiosity in the all things scientific and biological. And then one thing leads to another, and she gets fired through the roof during an experiment. And she ends up essentially in the lap of Captain Samvimes, who then takes her under his wing. And that's sort of where we find Chiri when we meet her. Yeah.
I hope we get that flashback. I want to see that.
I hope we get that flashback.
Wait and see.
Now, this is kind of being reported as a procedural series. It's very much about these people who are trying to uphold the law in a city where that is so impossible to do. But this is for everyone or anyone who wants to answer, if you could adopt any famous TV like law enforcer onto the team for an episode or anything, who would you want to see cross over into the Watch world?
Kojak has to be Kojak. Wow, Richard, you must have an idea about that, because you're so.
I would have said Columbo, but I think that Sam and him would just knock out.
Okay. I'm sorry. I got to ask. Right, Richard, do you have a Columbo? By the way, I should say Richard Dormer is a genius. He's a genius about so many things, but the one thing he can do incredible impersonations. I've bigged him up now, but I don't know if he can do Columbo. Can you do Columbo?
I could give you Michael Campbell.
So Kojak and Columbo is the answer. There you go.
Yeah.
Anybody else have one?
Batman.
Ooh,
That'd be
That'd be good.
That'd be so cool.
Batman, Joe.
Yeah.
Batman.
Well, thank you all so much for joining me today. I can't wait for the world to see the show. Everyone go watch The Watch. It premieres on BBC America, 8/7 Central on Sunday, January 3rd, 2021. Thank you.